Hey everyone. So the book I chose is called the mass market book is called Real Sex: Why Everything You Learned About Sex Is Wrong by Mike Lusada and Louise Mazzanti. So I actually came across this book a few years ago, and have been reading bits and pieces over the years. I want to say that the title is heavy-handed: Why Everything You Learn About Sex Is Wrong. And I would say this sort of the first section of the book has some similar tones to Sex Outside the Lines. It's not it's not as aggressive or heavy-handed, this Real Sex book, but it does touch on similar topics, and it has some of, yeah, it has some of that same feeling to it. So the first section of Real Sex, um, let's see, challenges social messages about sex. It challenges the stigma of sex. Um, Funny enough, it talks about how sex is often used as a tool um, to sell products. It's used in movies, perfume ads. I'm thinking Abercrombie. And so sex is this tool that's like heavily marketed and idealized, and these images are, yeah, idealistic. There's and powerful, if you will. But then it's a topic that we never talk about or has a taboo in social settings. So how odd that dichotomy is, that it is so powerfully used in media, but then something in our day-to-day lives that uh, that is totally taboo to touch on. So right, this first section of the book, it goes on to talk about social stereotypes of what sexuality should look and feel like, what attractiveness, what the ideal sexy body for the binary genders, male and female, looks like. The book talks about the pros and cons of pornography. The benefits, I guess, being pornography used as a tool for self-exploration, exploration between um, partners or multiple people, and perhaps even this this platform in which the thing that is so taboo that we never talk about, in a way, there's this huge body of resource available. And I want to say in that young people often get a lot of their questions about sex answered from pornography. And I feel sad just saying that. And the book, why? Because the book speaks to these sort of negative or idealized stories that pornography can create for individuals around what sex should and be like. There's a focus on climax, on orgasm, that being the objective. The masculine figure is often seen as powerful, and there's a sense of perhaps control. And then the sexualized nature of the female body. And I want to say that there's so many different types of pornography, and um, this is only a sort of one stereotyped image of that. And so, young people come into the world with many questions about what sex is, and often don't receive answers from limited sexual education at school. Friends often don't have answers, and then it's too taboo to speak to family members about. So they often go to pornography as a resource for learning. So right, that's the first section of Real Sex. Covers social messages, social stereotypes, the use of pornography. And then the rest of the book is more of a self-exploration. I think there's about seven topics it says that it covers moving forward from here. And each chapter ends with a series of self-reflective questions. There are meditation and relaxation practices, and then there are also like self-exploration and experiential practices, including awareness and self-pleasuring exercises. There's an exercise in there about shame and identifying where shame, so somatic experiencing exercises where shame lives or where one feels shame in their body. There's an exercise in there about many characters that shame can show up as in one's sort of psyche or mind. So all of these tools are great practices that therapists or myself as a therapist can offer to clients, um, can utilize in an individual therapeutic setting. So for instance, the reflective questions can be used as journal prompts or discussion prompts in individual setting, in individual session, or as homework. I could photocopy or invite the client to read a particular segment of the book to say, question certain social stereotypes or messaging to help reduce shame, to normalize desire. And to go one step further, if appropriate, some of these questions could be used in a group therapy setting. For instance, if me as a therapist was to run, I don't know, 12 weeks, a 12-week group therapy on sex, or say even I know that there's a recovery workbook designed for women by Stephanie Covington that includes um, one segment on sex. So say in a gender specific group or a queer identifying group can use some of these reflective questions, topics, prompts, or even a reading, a segment as a theme for that group. Now, in addition to that, the somatic exercises, the mindfulness practices, the meditation awareness practices can just be used as tools to help clients connect to their own experience outside their own physical experience, outside of the realm of sex. Just where do I feel tension in my body? Where do I feel pleasure and ease in my body? As a way to help clients reconnect to their senses, their awareness, their presence. That can be done in individual, group, mindfulness practices, or be assigned as homework, say for some of the more self-pleasuring um, experiential exercises. I want to be mindful of time here. So moving on, I want to share the different topics covered in the book. So I mentioned shame. Let's see. Body image is covered, authentic communication, consent, mindfulness, and presence. There's a chapter called pleasure, not performance. And then two that I want to go into just a little bit deeper here. One of the sections in the book, some is titled something like Discovering Your Own Sexual Style. And it linked to one of our readings for this week, the Handbook for Human Sexuality Counseling textbook, talks about Aroma's multi-layered model of attraction, which includes emotional attraction, aesthetic, intellectual, romantic, sensual, and sexual. So in short, this model says that attraction is not only what is often depicted in media or pornography as sexual attraction. And like has been stated, as John shared, that not all attraction leads to sex. Attraction can show up as the desire to intellectually connect with someone, or aesthetic attraction in the way one presents themselves. Um, yeah, their style, the visual, even sort of cultural nuances that the visual connects to, say a 70s look, or yeah, so there's the aesthetic, emotional, sensual, touch, pleasure of sharing a massage or a bath, or just holding someone, cuddling, kissing, hand holding. And so attraction comes in many forms. Um, People may have a preference or ones they lean more closely towards or more naturally to. And we may share certain types of attraction with some people and not with others. We may feel more intellectually connected to one person, and perhaps in our romantic engagements, we're really attracted to people on the basis of connecting emotionally, and or sensually. So yeah, examples. And then the other thing that I wanted to speak a little more about was also mentioned in that same Handbook for Human Sexuality Counseling textbook, was the idea of learning what turns what you on and what turns you off. So in the textbook, it was described as accelerators and brakes of one's sexuality. Also mentioned in Emily Nagoski's book, Come As You Are, which also has a workbook with a number of other exercises that can be used. So ultimately, this speaks to the idea of, I want to say all of it speaks to the idea of self-awareness and self-exploration and getting to understand what sexuality looks like for you as an individual outside of social messages and social stereotypes. What does it feel like in the body? Um, what feels pleasurable? What doesn't? Where do one's values and morals lie? What is one's philosophical understanding of what sex and sexual energy represents and is? Um, and what isn't it? So the book can be a great resource to reduce stigma, start the conversation, demystify, question some social ideas around sex, and then offer all of these practical exercises and reflective exercises.